Hello, good morning, 7L students. So, since we have a very tight schedule, so I want you to have some follow-up at home for what we have covered, and also I will talk something new, but actually very easy as well. So I'm sure that you can follow by yourself. So today you have 4 things to follow up at home by yourself. Alright, so the first thing, please mark your quiz 7 by yourself. Okay, so I will show you the marking and I trust you. Please mark yourself seriously and I will collect them tomorrow. Okay, second, so we will check the answers of page 14 and 15. If you have not done them, please try to complete them before you look at this video. Okay, and also you have your homework to be submitted and the solution will be helpful. Okay, the third thing, you have to try page 16, see if you are able to complete all of the blanks. Okay, actually that's not very easy. Okay, there are some challenging part. Okay, so it is quite interesting, you may try yourself, and we will go through page 17 and 18 together. Hopefully it will be within 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so the first thing, so here is the answer of quiz 7. Actually you can refer to the website as well, but I think you can mark them very fastly if you refer to this video. So the answer for question 1 is C, question 2 is C as well. So for the choice D here, it is basically simplifying an expression but not getting a formula, but not a formula relating different variables. Okay, so question 3, you have E and M and T to be variables, but 2000 is a constant, 4200 is also a constant, so the answer is B. So question 4, since you have a bracket here in front, so you add them up first and you multiply and multiply once more. 2 times 2 is 4 and a times a is a squared, so the answer is B. Alright, for question 5 and 6, I'm sure that you can actually do yourself. Okay, so each answer worth 1 mark. Okay, for question D, you have to include the unit as well. If you do not include the unit, so no mark will be awarded. Okay, you have to remove the multiplication sign and throw the 9 into the denominator part for the division in order to get this 1 mark. Missing any details will let you lose that mark. Alright, question 7. So the heading worth 1 mark. The heading, okay? Otherwise, I do not know whether you are calculating the weight that alpha has or William has, because you have 2 expressions and therefore you have to state explicitly. Alright, now I'm calculating or showing you that the weight of rice that alpha has. Okay, alpha buys X packs of rice and therefore the weight will be 6 multiply X, but she's going to give 2/3 or 2/3 of her rice, so the remaining rice that alpha has is only 1/3 of her original rice and therefore becoming 2x with unit kg. Okay, 1 answer mark is for the unit and 1 of them is for 2x. And similarly for William, in addition to the rice that he has bought, which is 6 multiply y, he has an additional component received from alpha, and therefore you have the answer right here. The unit is kg and you have to include the bracket If you doesn't include the bracket and give me something like this, you cannot score 2 marks, okay? Because in this expression the kg is linked with 4x only, but not 6y. Okay, so all together they form a group that you need to pay attention to. The bracket is needed. Alright, so if you miss out any equal signs, okay, just like your previous lesson quiz, you have to deduct your mark. Question 8 and 9 are actually quite easy. So the put statement worth 1 mark, the heading, which is value of p, worth another 1 mark. So you place in value into the formula, you get 2 marks. Ensure yourself that all the brackets are included. Okay, and negative bracket, -2, all the brackets have to be included. And the final answer, +1, would result in the last mark. Question 9, similar, the put statement worth 1 mark, the heading worth 1 mark. Appropriate substitution with all the brackets gives you the 3rd mark, and you have to handle this calculation. So if you have the sense that actually I need to carry out the division first instead of the subtraction, then you will have 1 method mark. And be careful, the division we have discussed in class, you have to be super careful. Okay, it is the 12 dividing -3 all as a whole. After calculating the blue part, as a whole to be subtracted, as a whole to be subtracted, as a whole to be subtracted, which is the -4 to be subtracted, and you get -23 for your final answer mark. Question 10, actually it is a very simple question. So basically you have the put statement, 1 mark. This time the heading is not value of C. You have to state clearly it is the price that Marie should pay. And you have the steps with the values being substituted, the 3rd mark, and 2 marks for the answer. 1 of them for the unit, 1 of them for the value. Part B. So Marie pays the bills using an octopus card of initial value after paying 290. So the remaining value will be calculated by subtraction, 1 mark, heading 1 mark, and the correct answer with the unit, 1 mark. Again, pay special attention if you write $sign -33.8, so you will have no mark. Okay, you will lose 1 mark. Okay, that's it. So that's the end of our discussion on the lesson quiz. Now let's move on to the answers checking of our notes page 14 to 15. Again, just a warm reminder, if you have not done them, don't check the answers. Direct copying would not let you learn anything. Okay? Please try to do yourself before you check the answers. Okay, I will not talk about them, so I will just show you the screen, perhaps for 30 seconds to check, and I will move on. So some of you ask about question 2, the y squared part. Okay, so you have to distinguish clearly 2y squared versus 2 multiply y as a whole to be squared. Okay, so for the case here, it is the negative 6 to be squared and multiply 2. So this is the multiplication sign, okay? And y equals to negative 6, so it is the whole thing to be squared. So you have to start a bracket to be squared instead of only containing the square for 6 but not the negative sign. Alright, so question 3 involves solving equation. Alright, so I think I will move on in 10 seconds. Please ensure that all the brackets are included, okay? All the brackets are needed. Alright, question 4. So basically you can check the answers for part A. The formula relating the amount to buy X soft drinks and Y bottles of apple juice. And this time Carol decides to buy 6 cans of soft drinks and 2 bottles of apple juice. Therefore put statement, heading, tell me what you are calculating, respond directly to the question, unit, and the final answer. Nothing special. For question 5, lastly, so you place the Chinese score, English score, and mathematics score of Oscar into the formula and tell me you are calculating the score of Oscar first. So you realize that the score of Oscar is 89, which does not fit the condition of above 90 mark. So you have to explain your answer because the question is not asking the score of Oscar. Instead, the question is asking whether he can get a grade A or not. So you have to explain, okay? This step is explaining. I say that Oscar cannot get the grade A because his average mark is smaller than 90 instead of above 90. Part B, so Oliver gets Chinese mark and English marks to be provided and also the average mark. This time in reverse, you are asked to find Oliver's score in mathematics. So you need to solve a relatively complicated equation, but I'm sure that you can try by yourself. Alright, so I give you maybe 10 more seconds and I will move on page 16 and 17, 18. Alright, so on page 16, I want to introduce you a very simple idea called sequence solely. So what is a sequence? The first point. A sequence is a list of number arranged in order. For example, the first term is 2 the second term is 4, the third term is 6, the fourth term is 8, 2、4、6、8、10、12係一個 sequence. But the order is important. If you have another sequence, 調翻轉數嘅 8, 6, 4, 2, 0 instead. So they are called different sequence because the order is super important. For example, if you have 10 students and consider their weight, okay, their body weight. So class number 1, the weight is 46 kg. For class number 2, it is 42. The third one is 50, followed by 44, 52, 58, 43, 41, 55, 45, etc. So it is also a sequence, although it doesn't contain any special patterns, but it is still a sequence. So basically your quiz score flowing from class number 1, 2, 3 to 29 here is a sequence. Okay, so each number in a sequence 我哋會話係一個行啦 we call term. Okay, the example here is the first term is 46. How about the second term? It will be 42. The third term is 50. The fourth term is 44. The 10th term is 45. But mathematicians are lazy. If you always write down the 10th term is 45, the 9th term is 55, then it would be super tedious. And therefore, mathematicians have a very simple way to define or to present this idea. Okay, so we use the notation T subscript n to stand for term n, or we can use A subscript n to denote the term in the sequence. In this example, the first term, we use A subscript 1 equals 46. It means that the first term, the second term, the third term, alright, the fourth term is 44. The 10th term is 45. Okay, so you reduce many English wordings. Instead, we can present the term of a sequence very effectively. So some of them have certain patterns, but in this example, there isn't. So we will focus our discussion, of course, on some interesting sequences with certain patterns. So you have a activity, there are 17 sequences. See if you are able to determine all the blanks, which gives reasonable patterns within the sequence. Okay, try by yourself. I will check if you can complete all of that. Actually, it is not that easy. Okay, don't underestimate the level of difficulty. Successfully some blanks or some missing terms inside a sequence. So there are some common sequences that we are going to discuss. So I know that it is actually very easy. There are kindergarten stuff. So for even number sequence, you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Odd number sequence 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Square number sequence 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, etc. Okay, so you have some new sequence. I will talk more about them later, including triangular numbers, arithmetic sequence, geometric sequence, and Fibonacci sequence. In secondary school, in grade 7, instead of just guesses, you need to learn how to find the general term of a sequence. Okay, so I will show you the idea. What does it mean by general term? So now you see example 1, you have a sequence 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, etc, 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 etc. So this is the first, second, third, fourth, 5. So you can guess the 6th term is 12, 7th term, 8th term. So please answer the 8th term is 16. So not difficult to guess. 9th term is 18. Super easy. Now you have a larger number. Can you guess the 100th term? instead of listing all of them out, 5 seconds. Alright, 5 seconds is actually too much for you. I'm sure that you can get 200. So how do you guess the answer 200? So you realize the first term is, the first term is 2 multiply 1. You realized every term is obtained by the number of term multiplying 2, right? For example, the third term is multiplying 2 to the number 3, etc. This logic holds for the 9th term as well. And therefore, you realize a pattern that whenever I want to find the arbitrary nth term, for example, 1,000, 600, 700, 7,000, 8,000, it would be obtained by 2 multiplying the number. And you can simplify a little bit because the multiplication sign is actually redundant. You can omit that, and this is the answer. So if I ask you what's the 721 term, so you place in 721. What is the 817? You place in 817. Okay, it has the idea of putting certain value into a formula. Okay, so it is quite the same as the idea of formula and substitution in 3.2. Here we focus our discussion on sequence, and you have to realize some special patterns. Now, question 2. The first term is 9, the second term is 16, the third term is 25, the fourth term is 36, the fifth term is 79. So as you can imagine, let me write this down. The first term is 9, the second term is 16, the third term is 25, the fourth term is 36. So as you can imagine, the sixth term will be 64. The seventh term should be 81. As you can guess the pattern. I'm sure that all of you can do this. Actually, I'm not going to explain, but I'll do that later very soon. So you can write the 8th term is 100. The 9th term is 121. Now, what is the 100th term? So you have to realize it actually seems that it is 3 to the power 2, 4 to the power 2, etc. But have you realized that for the first term you are considering 3 instead of 1? For the second term you are considering 4 instead of 2. Of course, you are considering 6 squared for the fourth term. For the seventh term, you are considering 9 squared. So it is not difficult to imagine for the 100th term. Instead of 100, you are considering adding 2 before you get the squared. Okay, so calculate by yourself. It should be 10404. So how can we get the general term? So let me tell you. You are adding 2 to the number and to be squared. Okay, this bracket is super important because the square operation is carried out after the addition. 2 plus 2 makes sense. The third term is being found by adding 2 to 3 and to b squared. The fourth term is found by adding 2 to 4 to b squared. The fifth term is found by adding 2 to 5 to b squared, etc. Okay, following this pattern and structure, you can actually guess that the general term, any numbered n, is actually calculated by the form like this. So you get a formula. Alright, and in specific, this notation, a subscript n, is a form of sequence. Okay, super easy. So I want you to try to obtain the general term for these 3 questions on page 18. Okay, please work out by yourself and pause this video. I will display the answers only for part D for each of them after 10 seconds. Please pause it before you really check the answers. Okay? Alright, so see you tomorrow.